Hi, it's Lauren. Before we jump into today's card in my craft room, I wanted to share my latest scrapbook.com creative team box. So if you want to skip past this, use the chapters, but let me show you what I got. Hey, it's Lauren. Forgive using my camera microphone, but I wanted to go through some of the things that came this month for scrapbook.com so you can take a look at them and see how I'm going to be using some of the supplies they sent me. First are these storage boxes. I'm not going to show them to you yet, but well, let me show you one. Hold on. Let me take out what I have. So this is the smaller box. This fits the smaller envelopes. Let me find some. Okay, so this is like the smaller envelope. They fit perfectly in there. This is like a 5x5, slightly smaller envelope, and they fit perfectly in here. But hear me out. I'm going to use them to store ink because I am running out of room for my Tim Holtz ink pads and where I keep them. I literally have one too many pads right now for the oxides. So I put some of my inks in here and they fit too because, let me show you, in the larger box of the same size, look at this. They all fit in there, 2 in a row. I had to leave some room, obviously, so I can move and be able to pull an ink pad out. And I can slide it back in, and I can leave them like this when I'm like searching through my inks. And then they also store really nicely just straight up. So I need to find some desk space, obviously, to put them in. But I'm really excited because I needed something for my ink pads. They weren't fitting anymore. So I will link down below these storage options. And right now, at the time I post this video, the storage solutions are on sale. So check it out if you are looking for ink pad storage. If not, this fits the larger envelopes. Let me find them. I was using them the other day. So here's one. As you can see, it fits in here nicely. So if you are super organized and like to put your dies and stamps in envelopes, these fit really well. Okay, let me move these aside. And forgive my sniffling, I am just coming off a cold, so. I got some new scrapbooking page protectors. These are really nice. I like that they're 9x12. That's kind of fitting what I've been using right now. So let's open it up. I've got a few different kinds. These are the ones that actually fold. They're really cool. Let me show you an example of one. So this is the page protector. Let me turn it sideways so I can fit it in my screen. And this piece actually like goes up larger. So I think this is like 12x12. Folded, it's 9x12. So you can have lots of extra little pictures in your 9x12 album. So that's really cool. And then just some other sizes so I can continue scrapbooking. Here's another foldable one. And these are, I believe, 4x6 instead of 3x4 like the other one. Yes. So let me pull one out. Again, 9x12. It'll fit in your 9x12 books, but then you can have this extra flap where you can store additional 4x6 photos, and these are 4x6 in portrait as well. So better keep going on my scrapbooking. Okay, quick little editing note. I thought these were also panoramic. They're not. They are 6x8, and they don't fold. They just have some different style pockets on there. I love the 2x2, so you could do some little tiny journaling or some tiny photos or ephemera. Here is a little sneak peek of a new mat that's coming out. This is their silicone mat 2. I haven't opened it yet, but it is kind of like sticky on both sides. So this is going to be great on your desk when you don't want anything to move. So I can stick it to my mat and then use it for stenciling and distressing. So I will definitely have to show how to use this in a video. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. We know you want to see. Here are some new scrapbook inserts. These are Disney themed, which is so perfect because I just went on a few Disney days. My mother blessed my family with a few days at Disneyland and California Adventure, so really am excited to scrap some of those memories. They come 4x6 and 3x4. Super adorable. We have some new dies. These are the Feel Better sentiments. There's Feel Better, Strong, Have, Courage, Stay, Hope. So lots of really great encouraging sentiments. There are also a couple new Bible verse stamps that we have. It's from Joshua, Job, Psalms, and Proverbs. We have some new Wordfetti stamp sets. This one is Fa La La for the winter holidays and sunny days, which are some generic like friend and loving sentiments. We have High Fall, which is great for Thanksgiving. We have thankful, wonderful, memories, grateful, blessed. A lot of great sentiments for the Thanksgiving holiday. And then finally, the two I am so excited for is Rose Blooms. You can tell I've already used it, and Wildflowers. I love these large florals, and they're going to be so beautiful to make like watercolor cards or just really big, beautiful, bold statements on cards. So super fun and excited to use these in some samples for you. I will have everything in my haul linked down below that is currently available, and if not, you can always hit the notify me. But let's jump into the card. So I have the sticky mat that I was showing earlier, and I'm going to use it on my grid mat. And first of all, let me apologize for how crooked my camera is. I did not realize how crooked it is, so forgive me for being slightly turned to the left. So I'm going to be using it for stenciling with Distress Oxide. So I laid down my new mat. I have a stencil that's definitely had some love. Can you tell I've used pops of color with it? And I'm using my mint tape just to keep my stencil to my paper in place. But I don't really need to put much pressure as I'm adding Distress Oxide. I have a dome foamed blender and I'm using milled lavender. And I'm just going in the stripes. The only reason why I'm adding a little bit of pressure with my hand is because how thin some of the stripes are on this stencil. I want to make sure I get plenty of ink on my paper and I'm not accidentally moving the thin stripe pieces, but my paper and stencil stay perfectly in place while I am distressing. So now I'm going to add some green. I'm going to use old paper in the large spaces in between my stencils. So I'm just cleaning off my stencil to get rid of the purple, cleaning off my mat a little bit, and then I'm going to shift my stencil so that way I can line up those thin stripes again to the white thick open spaces. I think it would also look really cool if I left the white and did the green in between the purple, but this is what I went with. And because it is slightly off-centered, I want to make sure that I don't go too far and create a weird line. So I'm just going to put a little tape to remind me of where to stop. So again, just like I did before with the purple, I'm taking this green color oxide and putting it onto my stripes, and then I will lift it up, adjust the stencil again, and continue on for the rest of the card. Now, I picked these colors because I don't really use them that often. I'm trying to use more of my oxides. As you saw earlier, I have all the colors and I don't use them enough. But I don't have any paper that really matches these colors. But you know what? I definitely learned my lesson. I should probably pick my paper before I pick my inks, but that's okay. We're going to go with it. So I finished my background. I love this purple and green stripes. I didn't do like a perfect coating of ink. I love this like textured look. And I'm going to stamp one of the new verses from the stamp set. I will have it linked down below. And this is a Joshua verse. I'm not a very religious person, but I am spiritual, and I think there are people in my life who would really appreciate this card in a time of need. So I'm having fun with these new verse stamps. I decided I wanted to add a little more fun to my slimline background, so I grabbed one of my scallop slimlines and die cut it first, making sure that my stamp will still fit on the paper. I'm sorry, I'm a teensy bit out of frame here, but I'm going to stamp this verse in some VersaFine Onyx black ink onto the bottom center of my slimline background. And I stamped it twice. It is a new stamp, so I wanted to make sure I had nice clean lines and good coverage because I am going to emboss this in some clear ink. So I moved my sticky mat out of the way because I'm going to be getting out powder, and powder and sticky mats do not do well together. So I added some clear embossing powder, and while I put that embossing powder away, I heat up my heat gun and I melt the embossing powder down so I have a nice bright bold sentiment. Next, I'm going to grab the Wildflowers stamp set. I, again, am loving these big, bold florals, and I'm going to go the one here that looks like a little bouquet. And I'm going to stamp with that VersaFine black onyx ink again, but this time onto some watercolor paper because I'm going to be using my Distress Oxides to color in my beautiful floral. So I'm going to kind of speed through this. You don't need to see me stamping again and embossing again, but I do stamp twice to make sure that there is really good coverage as watercolor paper is textured, and I want to make sure my embossing powder is picked up for the outline of my image and there are no gaps because, like I said, I am watercoloring. So once I have my my bouquet embossed, I'm going to grab my maker's mat. This is like my go-to mat for almost everything, and I'm going to use it for watercoloring because I can smush my ink right onto the mat, and I'm going to be using a water brush. You could also just grab a regular paintbrush and a little cup of water, and I'm going to color in with that same Oxide old paper to color in all of the greenery in the bouquet, so all of the leaves. And then I grab the milled lavender again and I'm coloring in all of the florals, and I go back and forth adding more color to some areas, and then once I'm happy with my coverage I just let it dry. But I want to add a little bit of shine, so I'm going to grab my Lawn Fawn liquid stardust and add a little drop into my maker's mat, one of my squares, add some water, and I grabbed a fine paintbrush and I'm going to splatter all over my image. It just adds a nice subtle shine when you tilt the card in light, and I think it really just adds more to the elegance of this bouquet. And I thought since I had lots extra, I would just go ahead and splatter some onto the background. It will cause a little bit of the ink to oxidize and create a really fun look and background, and it's just going to add more texture to the card. I'm going to go ahead and cut my bouquet off camera because it took me a while to fussy cut around the image, and I am really loving these colors and this beautiful wildflower bouquet. I decided to stick with the theme of the Bible verse, and I'm going to die cut Stay Strong out of some cardstock. I grabbed my smooth paper pads in Floral and Cools, and like I said, I don't have a purple and green that match perfectly, but they're going to be very subtle. I'm going to use these colors as a drop shadow behind my sentiment, which I will die cut in white, so I'm not really worried about the overall look. It's okay that they're slightly not the same color. So now that I'm going to die cut them out, I want to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of the paper. I'm kind of figuring out how long of a strip I need to cut from my 2-inch adhesive roll, and I'm placing it on one side of the cardstock, and I'm going to die cut it from the other side. So I'm putting this adhesive behind my white, green, and purple paper. And this is so that way when I die cut my words out, it will already have the adhesive on there and I don't have to be like super delicate with my glue trying to line them all up. So I have all 3 pieces trimmed and ready to go for my die cut machine, and I'm going to put my word dies on with some mint tape so they don't move, and then I'm going to run it through my die cut machine twice. This is just to make sure that it really cuts through. Now I did use ultra thick Nina cardstock, so it didn't cut all the way through, but it did cut through the cardstock. It just didn't cut through the backing, so that's totally fine because we're just going to peel the backing off. So I just left it in that little piece of white cardstock. So I'm going to have green lay on top of my purple, so I am not peeling off the release paper from the purple die cut words. I'm going to just pull off from the green. And I'm going to slowly lay these together, creating an off-centered look. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I like to do a drop shadow to the bottom right. So I am layering on my green word to the top left, and that way there's a little bit of that purple showing. And I'm going to repeat this process for the white. As you see, it pulled off really easily from the backing. It just didn't cut perfectly through. And again, that doesn't really matter for the purpose of this, the way I'm putting together my sentiment. So again, repeating that same process, grabbing the white, and I will put it as a drop shadow again. So this is a little bit more to the top left, and you'll see just a little peek of that green and purple. Again, slightly not the same colors, but it's close enough that I am happy with it. So there is the word strong. I'm going to repeat the same process with stay, but I'll go ahead and fast forward since you don't need to see me do it again. And I'm going to work on how I want to lay my bouquet and my sentiment. I wanted the stay strong to be really subtle in the background because the wildflowers and the Bible verse are very bold with the black embossing. So I'm happy with how everything is laying out. I'm going to pop up my wildflower. So I have my 2-inch adhesive roll, a foam adhesive, and I'm just going to cut up some pieces, lay it all around. I put a lot on there, as you can see, but I want my flowers to be really stable. And then I use my craft glue to add glue to the bottom of the bouquet because it's going to be behind my sentiment. So the flowers are popped up and the bottom of the bouquet is glued directly to my background. And now I will finally peel off the backing off the purple cardstock, and this is what I'm going to use to adhere my letters to my card. So I'm putting strong approximately where it's going to go so I can lay down stay. Go ahead and press that down, and then I'll repeat the process of peeling off the release paper off the back of strong, and then I will place that down, and it will overlap a little bit with the bouquet, which is what I wanted, and the Y from stay, but that's okay. It adheres really nicely. This is really great adhesive. So now that my card is pretty much done, I'm going to grab my base. This is part of my not part of my, this is a piece of my white cardstock. I cut it down to 8.5 by 7 and scored it at 3.5, so it's 8.5 by 3.5. And I didn't really like the white on behind my background. I was like, it needs something bold like the rest of the card. So I grabbed another piece of Slimline cardstock, and this is metallics, and I use the black one because I have bold black sentiment and outline of my flowers. So I didn't want to waste a whole entire sheet because I'm so stingy with my paper. I die cut using one of my Slimline dies so that way I could have a layering piece for another project, and I just am gluing down the frame using my adhesive runner, and I'm just carefully placing that onto my card base because it is a little bit thinner and a little bit hard to work with sometimes, so just being very delicate with placing it onto my card base. And then I'm grabbing my adhesive runner again, adding glue completely behind my die cut background, and then placing that onto the card base. And I really like that. I think it looks really nice with that black outline. It really just goes with the rest of the card. I'm grabbing my glitter lavender luster pops of color and just going to add a bunch of little dots everywhere. I like using my pops of color just to add a little bit of, shine to the card and fill up a background. And then I go ahead and tap on the back side of the card so that way the little Hershey Kiss droplets turn into more of an enamel dot look, and that will finish off my Slimline card. I hope you enjoyed watching this. It's definitely didn't go as planned, obviously, with the colors, but really I think it looks really nice, and I really enjoy using some colors I don't traditionally use. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!